How's it going, Yankee fans? Welcome back to Fireside Yankees with your boys, Alex and Ryan. So we've kind of gotten over the Yamamoto situation. We're moving on. And we're going to talk about some silver linings today about, the money we saved, $300 million. Obviously, that now more details coming out about what that contract actually was going to look like. Now, the Dodgers gave him 12 years, $325 million with outs in the 6th and 9th year. Average of $27 million per season, $50 million signing bonus right off the bat, and a $47 million posting fee to the Oryx Buffaloes. They cashed, man. Like, they gave up the money for Yamamoto on multiple fronts. Now, they backloaded the contract a little bit. The Yankees offered, which I actually think is a better deal for what it's worth, Ryan. People will talk about the $325 million. The $300 million actually was a better deal, and I'll tell you why. They would have given him the same $50 million signing bonus, obviously paid the fee to the Buffaloes. But why it was better is they gave him an out after the 5th year when he'd be 30 years old, so he can cash in a better market for him, right? He'll be 30, plenty of time to keep being a phenomenal pitcher. And at the same time, they were going to front load more money. Obviously I think they wanted 10 years. So I think he would be getting paid, $32 million. So it was 32 mil. It was actually more money up front. Same exact situation in terms of they would have figured out the signing bonus, and they would have given him an out where he would have cashed out. And when the market elevates, there's teams could be spending more money as time goes on, obviously, with inflation and whatnot. He could probably get even more money than what, the Dodgers are going to give him long term. But, he can get out after the 6th season. He'll be 31 years old. But that 30-year-old's change, 30 to 31, it could be a big difference. But I think the Yankees offer was very strong. I think they gave him the most money. It was just more so about him wanting to be a Dodger at the end of the day. I really think that this was just about him wanting to be with Ohtani, being a Dodger. And, we move on. But now we talk about what we do with this $300 million that we didn't just spend, plus $50 million signing bonus and $50 million posting fee we would have had to give up. So, obviously those things don't count against the luxury tax or the salary tax or the salary cap threshold. But now we ask ourselves, how do you spend $300 million? Good problem to have if you're a Yankee fan right now, because, we can spread that money out. We can go out and get 2 starting pitchers, plus a bullpen arm. And the biggest silver lining of all, there is no excuse not to extend Juan Soto. We're going to discuss that right now. So, Ryan, what are your thoughts now that you see this 300 mil? We have needs. We need at least 2 starting pitchers, in my opinion. I think you would agree with that. And obviously, now you have Juan Soto, probably going to get a $400 million deal next year. How important is it to have this money in terms of increasing our probability of signing him long term?
Yeah, so if I'm Hal Steinbrenner or Brian Cashman, I know that Juan Soto is likely not signing an extension. It'll happen in the winter, most likely, that Juan Soto will accept the top offer from whatever team he ends up signing with. But as you mentioned, there is no excuse for Juan Soto to play for any other team for the rest of his life. So what I would do if I'm Hal and Brian Cashman is go to Scott Boras, go to Juan Soto, at least get a sit down, whatever it may be, and present him a $550 million contract over 15 years. This is your guy. This is the guy you've needed. I don't think that Yoshinobu Yamamoto was somebody I'm happy missing on. I wanted Yoshinobu Yamamoto. We both did. But let's be honest here. The must-have player was Juan Soto. The Yankees could not walk away from this offseason without Juan Soto. If he went anywhere else, it doesn't matter if they signed Yamamoto, Bellinger, me, you, the entire roster, everybody in the world, it would not have been enough. Juan Soto has been the Yankees guy for a while. Brian Cashman publicly talked about the fact that they tried to acquire him at the trade deadline. Their interest in him has been legit. They went all the way for him. Andy Martino even mentioned their interest in Yamamoto did not match their interest in Soto. They really wanted Juan Soto. It's time for their money to reflect that. He should no longer play for any other team. He should be a New York Yankee for life. You go out and you point out to center field and you say, look at Monument Park. You can go out there and you can join names like Babe Ruth, like Lou Gehrig, like Derek Jeter, all those players. You will be up there with them. Your number 22 will never be worn again by any other player if you stay here for the next 15 years. And another thing, I've talked about this on a different podcast with, I believe, Aiden, if I'm not mistaken. He will be the first Dominican-born player to retire his number with the New York Yankees. I know that to some people that doesn't mean a lot, but to people in New York City that means a lot, and to Juan Soto, that would certainly be an honor that at least somewhat entices him. End of the day, the money has to match the interest, right? Like, Juan Soto's not going to take a $50 million discount to get his number retired in Monument Park, but what you can do is offer him that money and then offer him and sweeten the pot a little bit with those added incentives. And end of the day, this is a must-have player. This guy is his talent is unbelievable. And And as you mentioned, with like shifting towards the pitching market, the Yankees might be able to get some pretty quality starting pitchers without having to break the bank necessarily. Look, I'll take the $10 million flyer on Frankie Montas. I think that would be an excellent purchase for the New York Yankees, especially considering their familiarity with him. They let him rehab at the end of the year. The stuff looked fine, right? Like when he comes back, if he's able to give you 120 quality innings, you're very happy with that. Another arm that I think, for a reunion that obviously is going to pop up is Jordan Montgomery. If Jordan Montgomery's price tag falls from $160 million to maybe a little close to 130, 140, the Yankees should certainly be all over it. There's one thing he provides that the Yankees sorely need, and it's consistency. I know that you're not buying a number 2 starter or buying a number 3 starter, but you are buying a guy who's going to be as good of a number 3 starter as anybody can get, if not better, right? I looked at his WAR over the last three or four seasons. Obviously, 2020 was a shortened season, so I had to use a per 30 start pace. From 2020 to 2023, he has consistently been a 3 WAR per 30 start pitcher. 3 WAR, that's good enough. That'll net you about $20 to $25 million in WAR value, right? Like if you're paying dollar per WAR, it's about $8 million. You're getting roughly $24 million in value a year from Jordan Montgomery. He's not going to be the type of pitcher that's going to be a quote unquote steal of a contract. You're not going to crush the market necessarily by signing him, but what you are going to do is be able to consistently stay above market value. You're consistently going to be around $6 to $7 million per WAR, and that's pretty good all things considered. And last season he was a 4.3 WAR pitcher. So, if you get something closer to maybe even 3.5 WAR, we're talking about netting, $28 to $29 million of player value and spending about $22 million to get to that point. I understand he's not, the most attractive option out there. I'm not keen on paying him $150 to $160 million. If he ends up going for that price point, I have no problem with the Yankees missing out on him. But if his market does fall a little bit, and I think it will, right? Not in the sense of he's going to not have interested suitors, but the Mets are not going to be involved in that. They're not going to be there to drive up that price. The Dodgers are not there to drive up that price. It seems like the Padres, maybe, I don't know if the Angels are going to get involved. I know that they're involved in Blake Snell. I don't necessarily think Jordan Montgomery wants to go to Anaheim either. Why would you want to go to a franchise that's basically a dead end? Maybe the Giants are more interested in him. Who knows? But what I do know right now is that the Yankees are going to be able to, compete with teams like the Red Sox for Montgomery. And again, no disrespect to the Red Sox, but I'm not necessarily scared of their ability to push a Yankee offer out of the water. So, end of the day, even if you want to look at the depth of the market, the trade market, Bieber, Burns, Cease, I think Bieber's the most realistic in terms of price. I mean, if you walk away this offseason with like Shane Bieber and Jordan Montgomery, Alex, that rotation's damn good, right? Like, I know you have a few flyers in there, but you've got Cole, Rodon, Bieber, Montgomery, Cortez. That's one hell of a rotation. And that's a lot of guys who, are like a few of them are going to be free agents soon. Cortez and Bieber will be free agents following the 2024 and 2025 seasons. That gives you an opportunity and a lane to fill in for guys like bring in Chase Hampton or bring in Will Warren or maybe re-include Clark Schmidt to the rotation. I'm not saying they have to push Schmidt out of the rotation, but what I would say is that having him as your 6th starter feels really good. And having Will Warren as your 7th starter, man, I mean, we're talking about a damn good pitching staff, a lot of upside, a lot of, depth, and a lot of pivot options internally in case somebody goes down, which, I mean, Alex, we know the story of the New York Yankees. Somebody certainly will.
Yeah, somebody certainly will. And here's kind of a take that I was thinking about in terms of 2024 specifically. So I think there is going to be some sort of adjustment period for Yamamoto. I think he's long-term going to be a fantastic pitcher. We obviously would have loved to have him. But with that being said, there could be a period in 2024 where he struggles to get acclimated. It's a totally different game. Better hitters, baseball's different, more innings, less rest. Like, it's going to take a couple of months to get really used to the MLB. I think for most pitchers that's the case. I think he will transition smoothly. The one thing that you can say about the alternative pivot options, if you're the Yankees with Jordan Montgomery or whatever it might be, you're getting players that know how to pitch in the MLB. Like, they know what they're expected to face. They know, what to do, the preparation process of like being a pitcher, 5 days of rest, and then going back out there, postseason comes around, taking care of your body. Montgomery obviously is the obvious connection. We've been linked to him internally. We know what Montgomery is. Low strikeout guy. He pitched a career high innings last year with like 188 innings. He's pretty durable. Like, he's been good the last 2 years. Of course, knock on wood. You never know with the Yankees. The guys just fall for no reason. So Montgomery is a fine pivot. He's not going to cost $325 million. That's for sure. You could theoretically, and I know you were kind of suggesting this, like Will Warren, I have big expectations for Will Warren. I think that he has to be like a Brito Vasquez kind of option this upcoming season. He's the guy that replaces them. He can be a spot starter, as you mentioned, like a 7th arm or a bullpen piece to kind of help he can collect innings. Like, he could pitch 3 innings if you need him to. So I think that's a good thing to have. It's obviously something the Yankees need him to step up into that role. But if the Yankees walked away this offseason with Montgomery, Shane Bieber traded for him. He may not cost a whole ton. I know Ryan's writing a piece right now on a mock trade rather, that would land us Shane Bieber. Had a 3.8 ERA last year, a little bit of a down season in context with his previous performances, obviously a Cy Young Award in 2020. But this is a pitcher who could turn things around. He knows Matt Blake, has worked with him, a lot over the years. So that connection is obviously there. Now, if you get Carlos Rodon back, I wrote a piece on Rodon this morning, essentially saying, and I think you'd probably agree with this, the Yankees season may hinge on Rodon bouncing back. Like, if he doesn't bounce back, we're in a really bad spot, because we can't trust Nestor Cortez to run back the one great season he's had. I don't know what Clark Schmidt is going to end up being. Preferably he ends up becoming a stud. Like, that would be great for us. Obviously, you don't know what Shane Bieber is going to be next year. You don't know, what Montgomery, if he's going to regress. Like, you just don't know. Rodon has to bounce back. We paid him to be the number 2. He's got to be the guy we paid him to be. That sub 3 ERA type of pitcher. That guy can go out and dominate. The problem is, he's a 2-pitch guy. He's a 4-seam fastball, and he's a slider guy. His 4-seam fastball, his batting average he gave up last year was almost 300, right? Like, he was bad. And his slider was not as bad, but it was still not great. Those 2 pitches, if one of them is struggling, it eliminates his deception, right? Like, he doesn't have the full array of pitches that pitch sequence to cover up some of those pitches that are struggling. If his slider's off, he's screwed. If his fastball's off, he's screwed. He can't create that deception. So he's got to be better. I think it's more injury related last year. I think you would agree. Hamstring, left forearm strain, a chronic back injury. Like, he just never got in rhythm. And pitching is a rhythm game. Like, you see Garrett Cole, like, he is always in rhythm because he does not miss time. Knock on wood again. You look at Rodon, he missed a lot of time, never got in rhythm. He missed his whole pitching program to open the year. He was trying to rush his way back to help the team. It just never felt really good. The Yankees need to do everything in their power to keep that guy healthy during spring training, because if he gets hurt again, we're in deep crap. Like, that's the truth. So, talking about Juan Soto, though, going back to kind of the main silver lining of this entire equation, the Yankees now have a lot of money. They're going to have to spend on somebody, whether it's Montgomery, whether it's not going to be Blake Snell. It's probably, if we're being honest here, dude, I think that we're probably going to end up trading for Shane Bieber, and I think we're probably going to end up bringing back Frankie Montas. I think that's probably what we do. I don't know if we're willing to spend $150-200 million on Jordan Montgomery just because the market is so thin. You know what I mean? Like, I don't feel it in my bones. I don't think that the Yankees are going to say to themselves, Yamamoto on the upside was elite. We just saw the best of Montgomery. We don't know if he can run this back. I think they're going to go and try to trade for Shane Bieber, not give up a ton of value, bring back Montas for money, and then wait until the trade deadline, and then probably try to steal somebody. Maybe you try to leverage, like, let's say Jason Dominguez is like ready to return. Maybe you try to leverage an outfielder. I hate to say this, but maybe they try to leverage Spencer Jones or Everson Pereira. You know what I mean? Like, maybe they try to use those guys to their advantage because we have so much outfield depth now. That's kind of how I see this going. I think we go and acquire a guy like Bieber, bring back Montas, survive until the deadline, and then you probably go out and try to trade for somebody and give up some assets. What are your thoughts on that? We'll bounce and finalize the Juan Soto kind of topic, obviously. That would save us a lot of cash. You know what I mean? Those are World Series winning moves. Like, you go and try to acquire some players at the deadline that can reinforce your team at that moment, give up some prospects, given the team looks really good. You save a lot of money because you don't bring in Montgomery on a long-term deal, and that money rolls over into Juan Soto, maybe bring in another pitcher in the free agency market next year.
Yeah, the way I would look at it is with Jordan Montgomery, it is opportunistic, right? Like, that's how you have to view it, right? You have to view it from the standpoint of, all right, we are optimistic, or not optimistic, excuse me, we are interested in bringing in Jordan Montgomery at our price point, right? Not above our price point, at our price point. He has to kind of fall into our laps almost. And I'm not saying it's impossible that happens. I'm just saying, as you mentioned, you shouldn't necessarily say that that's the likelier outcome, right? It depends on how interested the Red Sox are, how interested the Rangers are. We know that the Red Sox are interested, but how much money are they going to give Jordan Montgomery? Are they going to give him $160, $170 million? If they do that, you pass on it, right? Like, if you're the Yankees, you kind of look elsewhere, right? And I have no problem with that. As you mentioned with Shane Bieber, the big thing I really like is that Shane Bieber specifically talked about increased usage of the curveball with Matt Blake and how that was credited with his breakout. Look, I don't know what the Cleveland Guardians were doing. I've tried to ask friends who are Cleveland Guardian fans what the hell happened here, but he dropped his breaking ball usage by like 10%. I legitimately have no idea why he did that. His two best pitches last year, his curveball and slider, for some reason were the two pitches that took a step back in pitch usage. I have no idea what they're teaching over there. That's a smart organization as well. So I don't know if it was injury related. I don't know if it was comfort related. What I do know is that down the stretch, while the ERA wasn't great, the strikeouts were great, and that came from an increase in curveball usage. So maybe the Yankees are able to get him to use that pitch a little bit more. He's at Driveline right now. I let people think like I'm just throwing around Driveline as some buzzwords. Oh, you go to Driveline, you're going to be good. No, but he's going to Driveline, which means that if he's going to increase his velocity, or if he was going to get some of his velocity back, that's where he would do it, right? That's where you would assume he could get that done. And of course, just getting a really good biomechanical look at what how things are with his mechanics and everything like that is good for him. I'm interested to see what he's able to do. I know that his diminished velocity is a concern, but he was a Cy Young vote getter in 2022 and shut down the Yankees in the postseason on diminished velocity. So am I going to sit here and say he can't be good on 91, 92? No, I'm going to say he can be pretty good. And we're not talking about giving him 6 or 7 years. We're talking about giving him 1 year, right? At $12 million and trading maybe like just Everson Pereira. Like, would you do Everson Pereira for Bieber and cash? I would, right? I would do that. I think that's a fair deal. Maybe you could do like, maybe you can get a little more. I don't know. Like, I would do that deal. I love Pereira, but like he's kind of extra right now. And you're going to hit a certain point in which you can't just flip Everson Pereira for a pitcher, right? And you don't want to enter that point in time where, maybe his value depreciates. Is the upside worth keeping him around? Not necessarily given the context of what you have, right? You have Jason Dominguez, you lose to Spencer Jones. I'm not gonna lie, man. Spencer Jones, his floor is very high. I know that people think his bat is too volatile for his floor to be high. Completely wrong evaluation on Spencer Jones. The floor is very high with him because of his excellent defense and center. He's a near guarantee to be a quality major leaguer. And of course, and I wanted to make sure I could tie back to this because I know you wanted to, Juan Soto. If your plan is to keep Juan Soto long term, that knocks out a corner outfield spot. Aaron Judge knocks out a corner outfield spot. Giancarlo Stanton still under contract. That's 4 more years. Spencer Jones, that's center field. Or Jason Dominguez, that's center field, right? So, we're kind of looking at the way that this farm system is shaking out a little bit. And Everson Pereira might not have a spot this time next year. And by this time next year, teams are going to be well aware of the fact that Pereira is not going to have a spot on the roster. And of course, he's not going to have the playing time at the major league level to, be able to say, all right, he had a sample at the major league level. It looked good. We want him. You know what I mean? Trent Grisham's the 4th outfielder, and Trent Grisham is not a shitty fourth outfielder. Excuse my language, but Trent Grisham is a quality major league center fielder. The gap between Trent Grisham and Kevin Kiermaier is what? Like negligible at best because Kevin Kiermaier can't play as many games as Grisham. You're talking about 2 players that, and we're talking about Kevin Kiermaier. I mean, on October 1st, we were like, oh yeah, if they sign Kevin Kiermaier, great addition. Go get him. Go let him play center field. And now we're going to get Kevin Kiermaier type of guy for our 4th outfield spot. So, Alex, overall, I just don't think that Everson Pereira is going to find playing time this year. And if you can trade him for Bieber and then lock up a guy like Soto long term, your offseason looks really good. Of course, I'd like to see him sign a second starter, as you mentioned. Frankie Montas profile as well for that. You are taking a lot of chances here. But you know what? You have 7 guys in Cole, Rodon, Cortez, Bieber, Montas, Schmidt, and Warren, and I'll bank on them to get me through the entire season, and we'll reassess at the deadline. Maybe the Yankees have to trade for a starter. Maybe the Yankees have some guys break out. Who knows? But the upside for Shane Bieber is he's his 2022 self, and if you're trading Pereira, it's fine because, look, you just traded for Juan Soto, and the goal is to keep him long term. He needs to be a New York Yankee for the rest of his life. Never play for another team. I don't care if he's 42, 43, never for another team ever again. Alex, I think you agree.
Absolutely agree. I mean, you referenced Spencer Jones before. Wanted to hit on that as well. The guy. Look, we talked the other day about him being the number 1 prospect comparably to Jason Dominguez. It's like 1A, 1B, right? Like Jason Dominguez, the only reason I have him ahead is because he's 2 years younger. Obviously a freak athlete, has ridiculous power, a switch hitting bat. He has hit a homer off of Justin freaking Verlander. That is why he is number 1 to me. However, Spencer Jones, guys, is no joke. This is not that whole video was not meant to be a hit piece on Spencer Jones. This was supposed to be just a debate about who was number 1 prospect, but both are freaking awesome. Like Spencer Jones, we've interviewed him. The guy is dope. He is sick. He is amazing. Still like 37 bags last year for, what was it, in high A, Hudson Valley. Then had a couple more in double A. The dude can mash. He's got generational power, and he's a freak defensive player, freak athlete for a player of his size. I'd even argue that he's a better athlete than Aaron Judge at a similar frame. So, like, you're looking at someone that has that level of upside. Yeah, you're gonna rank him highly. I was just more so basing the conversation off of, guy who's hit, guy who hasn't hit against MLB pitching. That's more of the argument at hand. But Spencer Jones, like, if you're going to trade Spencer Jones, you're getting a damn good haul. Like, you're getting a very good starting pitcher or at least a guy that is proven with a little bit of control too. Like that's how valuable Spencer Jones is to me. You're not giving him away for a 1-year rental, no chance. Unless the Yankees are churning through teams and they're absolutely on fire, and they're like, we are going to push for a World Series this year, and we're missing a Luis Castillo, let's say, and just throwing his name out there, like a Luis Castillo level pitcher on a 1 year, like with 1 year of control left, we'll give you Spencer Jones for him. Like that's the only way I'm giving up on him right now, is if like that's the missing link to a World Series. I will trade Spencer Jones for a World Series in 2024, especially if it means beating the freaking Dodgers. So, I definitely am on board with that. That could happen. That's a realistic opportunity for the Yankees down the road. We'll see how, obviously, the season progresses. It hasn't even started yet. But now, you discussed Juan Soto a little bit. I think that's really where we look into the future here. Juan Soto is a 25-year-old kid in a Hall of Fame level career and just scratching his prime. Like, I wouldn't even say he's in the middle of his prime. He is at the beginning of his prime. You don't find Hall of Fame level bats at the beginning of their prime in free agency. It doesn't freaking happen. Now, here's my overall overarching take here. The Dodgers just got Shohei Ohtani, and they just got Glasnow and then Yamamoto. The Yankees need to keep Juan Soto. Why? Because if they don't, we are going to be a joke in the future. Like, nobody's going to buy into the fact that the Yankees are that prestige organization anymore, that dynasty. We have to lock in Juan Soto. It's the only play to keep our respect. You know what I mean? As a big player in this market. Players are deciding to go other places now, guys. The only reason we got Juan Soto is because we traded for him. We didn't sign him in free agency. He had no choice. You know what I mean? I think he wanted to be a Yankee, but he had no choice. Players are picking the other teams over the Yankees now. We're losing that aura of dominance. We need to extend Soto, continue adding pieces, and compete for World Series because players don't see us as a real competitors right now sometimes, Like, we're going after old guys like Josh Donaldson. It's got to end. Now is the time to reinvest in your aura, your image. Juan Soto reinforces that. So I do think, and look, eventually Aaron Judge is gonna age out. Garrett Cole is gonna age out, and when that happens, Juan Soto will be 30 years old, still one of the best hitters in the game, in the middle of a Hall of Fame career. Yankees cannot pass up on that. So I'll give you a second to kind of hit on like why it's so important for Juan Soto to be extended, because I think like if you don't extend him, like we kind of look like a joke.
Yeah, let's make one thing very clear, right? Like, it would be a catastrophic failure if the New York Yankees don't sign Juan Soto. I know that people, I know that everyone's upset about Yamamoto, but I want to clarify the type of player we got in Juan Soto. You said future Hall of Famer. We're talking future all-time great here, right? We're not talking about a guy who's going to get 60 WAR and coast into the Hall of Fame. We're talking about a guy who's projected or on pace to put up like 100 WAR and be an inner circle Hall of Famer. Look, there are very few hitters who have ever been as good as Juan Soto. In fact, there's a higher OPS plus than Joe DiMaggio, than Hank Aaron. I just want to clarify, this is a 25-year-old, so not necessarily covering the full years of his prime. These are the years of his prime. You assume his age 25 to like age 29, 30 seasons will be his best offensive years. We haven't gotten there yet. He has not played his age 25 season yet, and he already has a better OPS plus than the guy who was the home run champion before Barry Bonds came around and had a very healthy breakfast every morning and then hit 762 home runs. But no, seriously, look, Alex, we're talking about a generational player here. We're talking about a once-in-a-lifetime talent, right? Juan Soto was the age that Aaron Judge was when Aaron Judge broke out in 2017. Aaron Judge has gotten considerably better in his late 20s and 30s. Aaron Judge, the age 30 version of Aaron Judge and the age 28 version of Aaron Judge are nearly unrecognizable from each other. This is a much more polished and better hitter. Imagine what Juan Soto can become with more time at the major league level. Imagine what he can become situated with one organization for a decade plus. This guy is going to become the face of Hispanic baseball if he's here at the New York Yankees forever, right? Like, if he's here for the rest of his career, he will be the face of Hispanic baseball, and it will be in the Bronx. I understand, that the New York Yankees and the Los Angeles Dodgers are kind of going to be going head to head for brand recognition and all that stuff. But the Yankees you're right. The Yankees have to show that they're not going to, just wait idly by, that there's another super team out there, that there's this other more dominant franchise out there than them. They need to go out and they need to make sure that they're competitive every year, which they have done a good job at, but they need to aim to be the best every year. I am sick and tired of talking and justifying, situations where the Yankees are like the third best team in the AL. And we're like, yeah, it's good enough, right? And I think that this front office understands that that's not good enough, that they need to make the investment that, the fans ask for and that the fans demand. Somebody tweeted this, and I think this is such a perfect encapsulation of where baseball's gone. The biggest market inefficiency now is caring about winning, right? Like, that's the biggest market inefficiency. How many teams care about winning, right? Like, how many teams care enough about winning to do what the Yankees did for Juan Soto, or what the Dodgers did for Yamamoto and Ohtani? Who else, right? Like, the Astros, like, they just lost in 7 games to the Rangers. Have they gone out and tried to get, Yoshinobu Yamamoto? Have they tried to get Aaron Nola? Have they tried to get Sonny Gray? No, they haven't, right? Like, they're the winningest franchise of the last half decade plus, and they're not going out and doing that, right? Looking at the Red Sox in our own division, they're not, like, they've been in last place 3 of the last 4 seasons. This is a historic franchise, Alex. This rivalry roots beyond not just our lifetimes, but our parents' lifetimes and their parents' lifetimes. And that franchise is not really trying right now. And those fans are disgruntled. Tampa Bay is a joke when it comes to spending. They just trade Tyler Glass now because they didn't want to spend the money on him. And they specifically structured that contract so they paid less money in year 1 and left the team that was going to acquire him in year 2, knowing that they would trade him, pay the majority of that salary. The Orioles, they just won 100 plus games. What do they need, Alex? Starting pitching. What have they done? Nothing. They have gotten not a single quality starting pitcher. They paid $13 million for Craig Kimbrell. The Toronto Blue Jays, they were in on Ohtani. They know they need a star. They need to get out of that. They haven't won a single playoff game with Vlad Guerrero Jr. and them. What have they done? Nothing. The AL Central. Whoever spends money in the AL Central. I don't even have to think about the AL Central. The AL West, like the Rangers, they're in a TV deal situation. They're not spending right now. Jordan Montgomery is currently a free agent. That's their best pitcher. That's their top guy. Jacob deGrom doesn't come back till halfway through the year. Max Scherzer doesn't come back till halfway through the year. Evaldi's an injury question. They need him, and they haven't brought him back. So when you look at the American League, when you look at the National League, when you look at the league in total, who cares about winning, right? Very few teams. And if the Yankees can establish themselves as one of those teams that consistently spend at the top of the market every single year and go out and get the best players, they're going to dominate the landscape. And they and the Dodgers will consistently win 100 plus games or 95 plus games and be in the NLCS or ALCS or get to the World Series or win the World Series. And Alex, imagine what a World Series championship would do for Hal Steinbrenner's legacy, for Brian Cashman's legacy, for this fan base, for this city, for everything. I mean, all everybody wants to see in this city is Garrett Cole, Aaron Judge, and Juan Soto hoisting up that commissioner's trophy in the middle of Yankee Stadium, on that mound, or in front of that mound, or maybe it's on a visiting ballpark, I don't even care, and winning the World Series. And that happens with that investment. As you mentioned, Juan Soto can never play for anybody else again. He can never play for anybody else again. He is your guy. He never leaves. It's end of discussion. If he leaves, you're no longer the New York Yankees. End of discussion.
I agree. I mean, look, at the end of the day, like, it really comes down to legacy. And Steinbrenner has a chance to correct it. But guys, always happy to hear your thoughts below in the YouTube comment section. Make sure to like and subscribe as always. Enjoy the holiday. Stay safe out there. And, I know a lot of people are traveling back home. So hopefully you guys get there safe and sound and enjoy some good family time, some good food, and obviously get some good presents. So much love to all you guys. Have a happy holidays. And we'll catch you guys on the next Fireside Yankees episode.